Well, good afternoon and welcome once again to All Things Baltimore. Reverend Lee Michaels here, and I am excited today to have a guest with us. Gentleman I've known for a long time, Lou Fields.
Yes, sir.
This brother,
Yes, sir.
he is probably one of the most knowledgeable people in Baltimore when it comes to the history of Maryland and how it relates with some of the iconic figures of our history on this weekend being, of course, the time we celebrate and commemorate the dreamer, Dr. Martin Luther King. Lou, it's so good to see you.
Hey, good to see you. Thanks for having me here. Really, thank you very much.
You know, I reached out to Lou because my wife and I recently had a chance to see Harriet, and I was so blessed by the depiction of Harriet and that wonderful crusade that she led that caused 70 slaves to reach the freedom, as well as 150 during battle. But then it reminded me in the movie about how she got her start on the eastern shore of Maryland, and I said, man, it would be great on this weekend to tie in Harriet. The movie is up for an Oscar, and Dr. King, and I thought about Lou, and he has a publication called, a book that you did, right?
Yes, I published in 2010 a book called The Maryland Black Facts, in which we feature Harriet Tubman and many other great heroes and heroines from Baltimore and across the state of Maryland.
Now, Lou is known for being able to dig up a lot of history, little known history about Maryland. How did you come across so much fascinating information?
Ironically, I was doing a service for a company called Everyone's Place in Expressions down on Packer Street. And they asked me, could I design a brochure for the tourists?
Okay.
And then design the brochure.
So it started off as a tourist brochure.
Yeah, it was called the Baltimore African American Resource and Tourist Guide to show people from out of town some of the great things in Baltimore, where to go, where to eat, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And out of that, you said, wait a minute, I've got something here that's probably a little bit more richer than just a brochure.
But God blessed the work, number one. And
Okay.
that's how we were able to go from doing an informational brochure to starting doing the tours, having an organization, and 23 years later, we're still here.
Wow. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, but we're going to take a pause to get a little inspirational break with some music here. And then we'll come back and we're going to talk more about not only the book, but also Harriet Tubman, because there was a connection between Lou and Harriet Tubman in the state of Maryland. You'll find out more about that in just a second, right here on All Things Baltimore. Welcome back to All Things Baltimore. Reverend Lee Michaels here. Of course, we've got Lou Fields with us, Maryland historian par excellence, and he has a book that he put together which really chronicles a lot of the history, particularly for African Americans in Maryland, and it's called The Maryland Black Facts?
Yes, Maryland Black Facts book 1634 to 2014, and basically what it does, it's a calendar book for our young people.
Okay.
Every month, 1st through the 30th, every day in the month, we give an African American child or any child in the state of Maryland a fact about what happened on that date in our state, so we can talk about the achievements and the contributions of black folks and put that in a more positive light for our children to be proud of the color of their skin.
That's
to be
good.
proud of where they live and where they're from, because now they can connect to, by birthday, someone who did something on their birthday.
Now, speaking of connections, the Harriet Tubman connection, how did you do your research for her?
I was invited by Brother Nati of Everyone's Place in 1998 to go down to Cambridge for something called Harriet Tubman Community Day. And that was in 1998, and I don't know, 21 years later, we're still working on things Harriet, all things Harriet, like all things
Well, they've
Baltimore.
got the monument down there now, which my wife and I, we were down on the Eastern Shore for another event. And we saw it from a distance. We didn't get a chance to stop because of time, but it looks great.
But one of the things we try to get people to do more in Maryland is to travel on Saturdays or Sundays to some of our outlying counties, and you go down to Cambridge, Maryland, Dorchester County.
Yeah.
You not only will find the place where she went to church.
Because
where
she was in
lived,
Dorchester
that's
County.
where she's from.
Yeah.
And you'll now see the $21 million museum in honor of Harriet Tubman there,
Wow.
which is unusual in the state of Maryland to have a multi-million-dollar museum at that scale named after an African-American female. So it's there, it's in Church Creek. We want to make sure that people get there. It's free. It's operated by the National Park Service, but in 1998 and year 2000, all the way up to now, we believe our work through the Baltimore African American Tourism Council was a little spark to get us to where we are now.
Now, there is also another connection with you and the legacy of Harriet Tubman, and something that you spearheaded because you saw that there was a need. Can you explain?
Yeah, we went to Memphis in 1999 to an Underground Railroad Conference, where in the year 2000 we hosted a conference in Baltimore, 300-some people from all over the country, all over Canada, everywhere, to talk about the Underground Railroad. And in Maryland, we learned while we were in Memphis everybody was talking about the big three. So we were Marylanders, we're in the back of the room because we weren't so sure of what was going on. But as the conference unfolded, we learned that the big three were Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Josiah Henson, all Marylanders. So now we moved up to the front of the room now, and we are proud that we are Marylanders all of a sudden, right? And so when we came back in year 2000, I worked with former Senator Clarence Mitchell IV,
Yes.
and he introduced the bill for us at the Maryland General Assembly that designated March 10th annually.
March 10th.
That's the day she passed, as officially Harriet Tubman Day of Remembrance in the state of Maryland. So every year since 2000, we've been doing the Harriet Tubman Day programs, tours,
Yes.
everything we could to bring up the awareness about Harriet as the iconic figure, because there's so many other nameless and faceless people who were a part of the Underground Railroad. So you use your iconic figure. So now we have the Harriet Tubman Museum in Cambridge. On February 15th, the governor will unveil a statue of Harriet Tubman in the State House.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And there's a wonderful statue of Harriet Tubman at Salisbury State University down in Cambridge.
So now, Lou, with this movie, which I thought was done, have you seen it yet?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I thought it was done well. Do you think it was done well?
For what they covered, yes. But
There was a lot
now-
of facts they didn't cover?
Well, Harriet Tubman lived to be over 90 years of age.
91,
And they
yeah.
only covered that part of her life on the Underground Railroad. They
And
didn't speak
not-
to her life prior to getting to freedom. Remember, she was enslaved.
Yeah, until,
Remember,
what, about 17, 18?
she was probably enslaved a little longer than that. She's born around 1822. She escapes around 1850.
Okay.
So it's about 28 years she was
Okay.
a slave. And they don't talk about that part of her life in the movie, which is the part that gave her the courage, if you will, the stamina, if you will, the wherewithal to do the things she did after escaping. But the first 28 years of Harriet Tubman's life is not really portrayed that well in the movie, because the movie can only give you about an hour and
Sure,
a half, 2
hour
hours.
and a half, right,
But
right.
she had a life, a real strong life as an enslaved person in Dorchester. She learned a lot. She suffered a lot. She was beaten. She was hit in the head. All
One of
those
the
kind
things that they talked about in the movie, which they alluded to having
Yeah.
something to do with the visions
Yeah.
that she would experience, was that she had received a blow to the head
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
that bust open her head.
Yeah, and you look at Harriet's life, and you would have to say, among Marylanders, she ranks up there as the most famous of all Maryland women. But in terms of what she did after escaping, is what sets Harriet Tubman apart.
Now we have an understandably a day, national day, to honor the work, life, and legacy of the late Dr. Martin Luther King, which tomorrow will be that day officially. Of course, the weekend we celebrated. But a few years back, there was a proposal to have Harriet Tubman placed on, I believe it was a $20 bill.
Yeah.
And what happened?
But those were the years of a different president, if you will.
Okay.
And things like that take on federal political overtones.
Yeah.
And we're hopeful that as soon as we have a new president,
That they can
we'll
be
revisit
rekindled.
that again.
I thought that would be a great way to honor her, not because it's on the money, but it gives something that can memorialize. You know, a child will be able to see a person of color, someone that looks like them, on something that has value to them.
And if people were to travel to Africa, for example, all the money has black folks on it.
Right, I know, because we've
You know?
been in Africa.
But here in America, having people like Jefferson Davis and others on the money that we use every day is a symbol of our country to them. And if you put Harriet Tubman on the dollar bill, some say good idea, others not so much. But if President Obama had moved on it in his first 2 years, I think we'd have got it done. But now that we have this type of climate in the White House now, we're just holding our guns.
So you're close to this topic.
We're holding our guns, yeah.
Yeah, you're close to it. So what would you like to see happen as it relates to Harriet Tubman, even as it relates to, you know, obviously the challenges that we face in this city? How do you see the story, the legacy of Harriet Tubman possibly having a positive impact on some of the things we're dealing with today?
Well, the more we teach our young people, that's the important part of history. If we don't teach children in the public school systems or even at higher education levels the achievements and contributions of people who look like them,
Yeah.
they lose that respect for self. And all of a sudden you see young people now realizing greatness comes in
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
You come out
yeah.
of a great people.
Yeah.
You have a great heritage. You have a lot to be proud of. So in teaching the stories of Harriet Tubman and others, we begin to help our children be inspired to be black.
So if somebody watching today, whether church or educationally, would like to have you come. Black History Month is next month, and would like to have you come to share. Would you be willing to embrace those invitations?
Oh, we've been doing that for 20 years. That's what we do.
Well, that's why.
So,
That's why I said it.
Of course, because again, it's through the outreach and it's the sharing of our history. It's not in the history books. We know that. When our children go to these public schools, they don't get a lot about Harriet. Maybe a mention, but nothing about her sisters, her parents, nothing about her life after slavery, her life as a caretaker. Harriet Tubman opened up one of the first African-American-owned nursing homes in the country.
Wow.
And those are the stories, unfortunately, a movie can't carry. But the movie sparks interest. And then my phone
and hopefully that might get the people talking.
And get people to reading more.
Without a doubt, she is an iconic African-American female. But there's another African-American female that we have a guest that's going to be joining us next to talk about. And then we're going to close out with you and give you a chance to share that information so that they can reach out to you during Black History Month or whenever, particularly to get more information about Harriet Tubman Day, which is March 10th. March the 10th. Yes. All right, we'll be back with our next guest right after this on All Things Baltimore. Thank you so much, K-Sal. And Lou, thank you, man, for being with us. I really appreciate on such short notice you coming to make yourself available to share with us, particularly now with Harriet Tubman, the movie Harriet, getting a lot of attention, in fact, nominated for Oscars. It was so refreshing and enlightening to be able to add another dimension to the conversation. And for folk who want to get a hold of you, how can they reach you to share some of the historical facts and knowledge that you've picked up along the way, as well as to talk to the young people?
Well, first, let me thank you for having us here. It's important that we reach out to as many outlets as possible so more people will not just go see the movie, but maybe they'll pick up a real book or they'll go on the National Park Service site and learn more about Harriet Tubman. But I'm at Baltimore, I'm everywhere. Everybody knows Lou Fields. You just find me.
I know Lou Fields, but just for those who don't know you, is there a website or social media? Yeah,
we have a website, BDX443.com. That's BDX443.com. But, they can find me.
They can find me.
I'm findable.
I know you are. I found you, and I'm glad I did. And also, James Earl Reed, I really appreciate him for adding another iconic figure, African-American female, Billie Holiday, a Baltimore born and bred, iconic figure in the area of music, special.
And we are talking about African-American females. This is the Year of the Woman. We talked a little bit about Harriet Tubman, and of course, when you talk about Billie Holiday, the great jazz singer who was so much more a civil rights leader, and here in Baltimore is the fellow who did the monument, James Earl Reed.
Wow, that's right, and James was with us too. We were able to dig him up too. Man, it was a good day.
Well, it's a great day, it's a great year, and we are hopeful that in 2020 more people get out, learn more about our history, visit our museums, and embrace the history. Love the movie, but love the history as well.
All right. Of course, we're going to try to keep you focused on the history as much as we possibly can, particularly with Black History Month coming up. But listen, that does it for us today. Hope you've enjoyed the program. And even as you reflect on the dream and the dreamer, because the dream still lives, even in the midst of the nightmarish conditions that sometimes we see prevailing in our streets, the dream still lives. Don't give up on the dream. Okay? And we look forward to you joining us again next week at the same time, 5 o'clock, right here on My TV Baltimore Channel 24 for All Things Baltimore. God bless you. Know that I love you with the love of Christ, but of course, as always, the good news is that Jesus loves you more. Have a blessed evening.